Good morning, everyone. Or perhaps good evening. Or simply good now, wherever you happen to find yourself listening to this strange noise I'm making. Let's begin with a very simple observation, shall we? You look out into the world and you see objects, trees, clouds, cars, people, and, of course, that rather peculiar arrangement of chemicals and nervous tissue you call yourself. You feel like a little island of consciousness, a sort of private operator peering out through two eye holes at a universe that is fundamentally other than you. You have the impression that you are a conscious driver navigating this vehicle of the body through this foreign, massive, and often intimidating landscape called existence. And yet, this entire notion, this fundamental feeling of being separate, is the greatest, most marvelous illusion the universe has ever concocted. It is the cosmic sleight of hand. You see, the title of this talk is "The Universe is Playing You as You." But we must immediately confront the riddle. Who is the you being played? And who is this universe that is doing the playing? We operate under the assumption that the universe is some vast, mindless mechanism, and you are the highly evolved, sensitive accident that somehow managed to wake up inside it. You are the conscious, fragile little passenger in a gigantic, unconscious machine. And this, my friends, is why we are all so thoroughly miserable. Because a passenger in a machine is forever anxious about the control panels, forever worried about the fuel gauge, and forever terrified of the inevitable crash. But look carefully. Look at the way a wave moves. Does the wave have motion, or is the wave motion? Now, look at a tree. Does the tree do growing? Or is the tree a happening, a continuous act of being grown by the environment, by the sunlight, by the water, by the earth? You cannot separate the tree from the space in which it appears, just as you cannot separate the back of your hand from the palm. They are two different perspectives on the very same singular event. In the same way, you, the individual, the separate ego, are not something that comes into the universe. You are something that the universe does. You are a wave. And the ocean is not just the water that touches you. The ocean is the entirety of the waters moving. You are a happening, not a doer. The difference between you and the universe is merely a matter of spelling. The universe is the vast, sprawling experience, and you are the little hole through which that experience concentrates itself and looks out. You are the eye hole of the cosmos. The ancient Chinese called this the principle of Tao, which translates clumsily as the way, or the spontaneous happening. The Tao doesn't try to flow, it simply is the flow. The clouds don't try to drift, the drifting is the cloud. And you do not try to live. Your living is simply the continuation of the entire universe's creative impulse manifesting at your unique address. The great problem, the great source of all human anguish, is the fiction of the separate ego, the I that is desperately attempting to grab hold of the Tao, to manage it, to control it, to improve it, and most ridiculously, to defeat it. You spend your entire life trying to catch your own breath. You try to make your mind quiet, which is like trying to smooth waves with a rake. The effort itself is the noise. The effort to escape yourself is the reinforcement of the self you're trying to escape. When you truly see that you are the play, and the universe is the player, and that these two things are fundamentally non-dual, they are one and the same, a great relaxation occurs. You stop fighting the tide because you realize you are the tide. You stop trying to manipulate the game because you realize you are the spontaneous movement of the game itself. This realization is not a doctrine, it is an experience. It's the moment when you cease to be a puppet on a string and realize you are the whole puppet show, the stage, the audience, the puppeteer, and the strings. You are the dance, and the dancer is merely a name we give to the dancing. Stop looking for the dancer and simply be the dance. This puts us in a very strange situation, doesn't it? Because the you who is listening and trying to grasp this idea is part of the whole elaborate play. The very act of seeking this truth is the universe seeking itself. The seeker and the sought are one. This is the great paradox. The only way to find yourself is to stop looking for yourself. The only way to win the game of life is to stop keeping score. Now we come to the great drama of the ego. The ego is the clever little knot tied in the fabric of the cosmos. It's the mechanism of the play that ensures the game of hide and seek continues. And what an immensely useful mechanism it is. How boring life would be if we were all simply formless, oceanic consciousness all the time. We need the I, the separate self. Just as a painting needs a frame to be defined, or a circle needs its circumference. The trouble begins when the frame decides it's separate from the canvas, and the circumference decides it's not part of the space it encloses. The ego, this little me, lives in constant terror. Why? Because it defines itself through boundaries. My body, my thoughts, my possessions, my time, my life. And every boundary is inherently temporary, fragile, and ultimately doomed to dissolve back into the great whole. The moment you define something, you have also defined its opposite and its eventual end. To be this is to eventually not be this. The separate self is fundamentally afraid of death. But death, you see, is merely the closing of a form, so that the energy may spring up somewhere else in some new, astonishing arrangement. It's like the wave collapsing back into the ocean, only to become a new wave, or perhaps a fish, or a cloud, or the laughter of a child many centuries hence. You are not going to die. You are being perpetually, moment by moment, done to death by the universe, which simultaneously does you to life. The two are inseparable. When the ego tries to control life, it is like trying to grab smoke. The harder you clench your fist, the less you hold. You see this everywhere in the anxiety of the modern age, the desperate grasping for certainty, for security, for a fixed identity. We try to pin down happiness, but happiness is like a butterfly. The moment you capture it, you crush its vitality, and it is no longer the beautiful thing you desired. True joy is found only when you open your hand and allow the butterfly of life to rest there, or fly off spontaneously. Think about sleep. How does one try to fall asleep? If you lie down and say to yourself, now, I must fall asleep, and I must not think, and I must not move, you will lie there, rigid and frustrated, until the morning light. The act of trying to sleep is precisely what keeps you awake. Sleep comes only when you surrender the attempt, when you allow the organism to take over the process itself. Living is exactly the same. The effort to be good, the effort to be wise, the effort to be happy, the effort to be spiritual, all of this frantic effort is the spiritual ego trying to muscle its way into the Tao. It's an exercise in futility. It is the player trying to control the play, when in fact the player is a move in the play. The great relief, the awakening, is realizing that you don't have to manage yourself. You have the same intelligence operating your heart, your liver, your neurons, and the movements of the stars. It is one process. You do not command your hair to grow, nor your blood to circulate, and yet these processes are carried out with an astonishing, effortless wisdom. And your thinking, your consciousness, your feeling of I, these are just other slightly more elaborate functions of the same cosmic intelligence. So, the question is, why do you trust the intelligence that breathes you, but distrust the intelligence that thinks you? Why do you insist on intervening at the level of consciousness when you never intervene at the level of cellular respiration? Because the ego has a stake. It wants credit. It wants to say, I did that. I controlled that. I survived that. And in wanting credit, it creates the very fear it seeks to banish. The fear that one day I won't be in control and the whole show will collapse. But the show can't collapse because it isn't being held up by you. It is being played out endlessly, spontaneously by the universe as you. The moment you give up the desperate attempt to steer your life, the moment you allow the great river to flow through your unique valley without interference, that is the moment you become truly alive. You become the spontaneous expression of the Tao, the sound of the universe laughing at its own sublime joke. You cease to be the struggling, separate ego, and you become the free, effortless happening. Let us consider the nature of time in this grand performance. The ego is obsessed with time, with the past and the future. It is a historical phantom, defined by memories of what it was and anxieties about what it will be. Yet, where is the past now? It exists only as a faint pattern in your memory, a ghost in the machine. And where is the future? It is pure potential, an absolute nothingness awaiting the present moment to call it into being. The present moment, the now, is the only reality there ever is. But the I, the separate operator, is forever trying to use the present moment as a means to a future end. We are forever climbing mountains, not for the joy of the climb itself, but to reach the summit, so we can say, I did it. We sacrifice the living reality of the immediate experience for the spectral satisfaction of the remembered achievement. When you realize the universe is playing you as you, time itself collapses into a profound continuity. There is no separate past, present, and future. There is only this eternal happenstance. The past is simply the present's memory, and the future is simply the present's potential. The whole thing is simultaneous, like the way a plant contains the seed, the sprout, the blossom, and the decay, all at once, as a single living idea. And this brings us, finally, to the magnificent topic of death. As I said earlier, dying is the secret joke of living. It is the final, grandest surrender, the ultimate collapse of the separate boundary. If you have spent your life clinging to the illusion that you are a separate, persistent entity, then death is the ultimate defeat, the horrifying annihilation. But if you have lived realizing that you are merely a unique arrangement of the universal play, then death is simply the changing of the costume, the dissolving of the form back into the formless energy from which all forms perpetually spring. Imagine a star exploding a spectacular supernova. Does that star mourn its disintegration? Or does it recognize that its particles are simply being scattered to become the raw material for 1,000 new, marvelous things, perhaps a planet, perhaps the carbon in a human hand, perhaps the shimmer of a nebula? The universe is simply recycling itself. You are not going to an end, you are returning to the source of all beginnings. So, how does one integrate this realization into the daily life of brushing teeth, paying bills, and dealing with bothersome people? Not by trying to feel non-dual, not by forcing yourself to surrender. That would be the ego's final, desperate trick. The integration comes from a simple, profound watching. Watch your thoughts as if they were leaves floating down a stream. You do not have to grab them, steer them, or even judge them. Just watch the stream flow. Watch your emotions as storms passing through the atmosphere of your being. You are the sky, not the weather. Let the storm rage. Let the sun shine. The sky remains unaffected. Simply allowing. When fear arises, do not fight it. Simply observe it. Fear is the attempt of the ego to defend its boundaries. When you realize the boundaries are illusory, the fear has nothing to defend, and it dissolves into pure energy. When you look at another person, realize they, too, are the universe playing its own unique tune. You are not two separate entities clashing. You are two waves in the same ocean, momentarily colliding and shaping one another. There is no need for conquest, no need for defensive walls, only the spontaneous dance of opposites. Love and hate, light and shadow, self and other, these are the necessary poles that allow the cosmic current to flow. To live as the play itself is to be utterly, magnificently unself-conscious. It is to act without calculation, to speak without rehearsal, to love without demanding a return. It is to know that whatever happens, whether it is delight or despair, birth or death, it is the sound of the universe. And that sound is your own deepest nature. The universe is playing you as you. And the most extraordinary thing is that the player is playing the game purely for the sheer, spontaneous, unpredictable, and infinitely beautiful joy of the play itself. So relax. Let go of the oars. The river knows the way. The game is already won, and you are the whole marvelous thing.